You're listening to the Journey Podcast. Join us on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment as we delve into the art of living your yes. Stay tuned for more. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we embark on a journey of self-discovery and empowerment, exploring the concept of living your yes. We delve into the importance of self-love and confidence, uncovering how embracing our true desires and saying yes to what genuinely resonates with us can transform our lives. Our guest shares valuable insights and personal experiences that highlight the power of living authentically and confidently, encouraging us to align our actions with our deepest values and passions. Megan Walrod, founder of Live Your Yes LLC, is a self-love and confidence coach, podcast host, and published author. She's dedicated to helping women break free from codependent patterns and cultural conditioning so they can follow their hearts and prioritize their dreams. Her personal journey inspired the Live Your Yes philosophy, which is grounded in the belief that when women prioritize their joy, they become more magnetic and create greater success and fulfillment in all areas of their lives. Over the past 15 plus years, she's supported thousands of women to create profitable and purposeful businesses and authentic, audacious lives that light them up. Her debut novel will be published in summer 2025. She lives in Portland, Oregon, and is in love with ferns, waterfalls, and the Oregon coast. Her current obsession? Cupcakes, and she thanks her inner little girl for that. Let's meet Megan Walrod. Hi, Megan. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because living your yes is such an amazing topic for our conversation today. I can't wait to hear more. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Petra. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and we've been chatting before the recording, and your energy is so amazing, and I can't wait to dive in and share all of this with our listeners. So for starters, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and how you've come to do what you do today, and then, of course, a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so let's use those words, living your yes, as our guide through this story, because that right now, Live Your Yes is the name of my business. And yet I'll take you back in time with my story to about 16 years ago. I went through a divorce and found myself really shell-shocked with this wake-up call of how I had focused on making sure my husband was happy. Like I wanted to know what his vision was so that I could support him. And I had considered myself a very strong and powerful woman, perhaps even a feminist. So to like have that wake up call, it was really like, wow, I was being his number one fan, supporting him. I was literally sitting in the audience while he was on stage performing. And so this divorce woke me up to how I had been supporting him with his dreams and neglecting really taking the time to get in touch with what was my dream, what was my desire, what did I want to create for my life. So you would think that after a divorce that was like a major sudden wake up call, that that would become my new priority. But instead, I did a lot of healing and growing, yet ended up in a relationship again where with my best friend, we were growing a business together. I thought, I'm doing it differently now because now I know he's who I want to be with. We're growing this business together. But about a year into our relationship, I felt completely stuck and unfulfilled. And my baseline like temperature or mood in life was kind of at this melancholic stage. And yet it was really confusing to me because I'd done a lot of healing work. I was recreating my life. I'd moved across country to start this new relationship. What was wrong? And then I started to get these mystery symptoms. I was starting to feel sick in different ways. And that to me was, I started to see this Ayurvedic practitioner. I was doing therapy and I was like, what is going on? I had this practice every morning. I would wake up early. I lived with my fiance at the time, and I'd wake up early in the morning and sit on our couch and journal and pray. And for months, I was crying to my girlfriends and my sister, like, what is wrong? I don't understand. Like, everything just kind of feels flat, but it's everything I thought I wanted. I said I didn't know what to do. And one morning, I'm journaling, I'm praying, and I'm crying. And this morning, I'm like, I'm ready to see what I haven't been willing to see. Please show me. And I heard this voice say, you've been living your maybe. And I started crying, and I just saw how this life that I had recreated after divorce was completely the safe harbor. The man was safe. The patterns that we had were somewhat familiar. I was still prioritizing him over myself in ways, even though it seemed like it was my plan to be growing this business together. It was more his vision. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so true. So, what am I supposed to do? And I heard these three words literally picture. It was like they bubbled up from my belly into my awareness, into my heart. Live your yes. And at the time, I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but I could just perceive this energy of lightness and this image of like the boat setting sail, leaving the safe harbor. And there were like shivers all throughout me. And I really felt the grace of that moment, that I was finally ready to see my own truth, that I was finally really ready to face that what I needed to do was to make some major changes in my life, which was to end the relationship and end the business. And that's why, looking back, I could see why I struggled for so many months, feeling like, I don't know what to do. Why am I stuck? Why am I unfulfilled? Because there was a part of me that really knew that I'd recreated my life, but my heart wasn't fully in it. And the only way to really create a life from the inside out was to leave that relationship. So, live your yes became my mantra. And as I began to learn what that meant, I learned at first it was having the hard conversations and letting go of what wasn't lighting me up. And I knew my inner compass was, what's my intuition? What is my heart guiding me towards? Because those dreams and desires, that's my soul calling to me. So living my yes, as I've discovered and learned since then over the years, has been creating a life from the inside out, prioritizing myself, my dreams and desires, knowing that when I choose that, I'm creating more fulfillment in my life. And when I'm lit up and feeling fulfilled, I'm creating more success for all those that my life interacts with. That journey, that Live Your Yes, became the name of my business because the most foundational level, that has been my mission to support women in creating lives that light them up, that require us to break free of the conditioning and the training that we've received to make others our priority and to be an afterthought in our own lives. So I'm like, nope, not on my watch, women. We're creating a different story for ourselves going forward. That brings me to today and why this mission is so important to me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And as I'm watching you speak, I can see as you're getting to that second part of the Live Your Yes, how you're lighting up and how you are glowing. So there is a big difference between when we live just the maybe, like you said, and when we find that path to our purpose or authenticity. And it's by no means easy. It's not going to happen overnight. But when we start on that path, I feel like something starts aligning within us and we start getting that feeling, yes, you're on that right path. This is where you're supposed to be. And things flow a lot better. I feel like you're going against the river all the time.
Totally.
I can so feel you on that. And for you, that journey of letting go, that sounded like it was a very, very difficult piece to come to terms with that. How was that journey for you to realize that you had to do that?
Thank you for bringing us back to that, because I don't want to gloss over that, because that was heartbreakingly painful. Like you said, it didn't happen overnight. It took time and it happened in stages. So there was this awareness that morning when I received that gift of you've been living your maybe, time to live your yes. I knew that things needed to start to change, but I wasn't sure how to approach this with my partner. And what I'm really grateful for was at the time we were doing couples counseling, I shared with him before one of our sessions, I think we really need to start talking about transitioning me out of the business and looking at transitioning us out of relationship. And he just had his own, like, what? Are you kidding me? And then we got to go in and see our therapist. And her name was Kitty. She was amazing. I will always remember her bright blue eyes, her sitting in the chair across from us on the couch, and me wanting to share more about what this was for me, and her looking at me and being like, Megan, look at your partner right now. He's not able to hear anything else that you have to say right now. He's in his own emotional process. So let me talk with him right now, and whatever compassionate space you're able to hold from him, great. But we've got to support him through getting to this place to have more conversation with you right now. And like that was such a moment of thank goddess I got support around having this conversation with him, because it was required. And so over a matter of weeks and months, there was the dismantling of me transitioning out, us crying together. Like, are you sure? Can we make this work? Is there a way to make this work? We loved each other. And it was so hard for me because he was my best friend. I loved him. And I know that some relationships, I'm not saying that every woman who feels stuck and unfulfilled, the only way to live your yes is to leave a relationship. I'm not saying that at all. Some relationships, you could find your way to that yes together. For me, it was so clear. I had chosen relationship again so soon after my divorce because there had been this unconscious story operating in me that, and I was at the time embarrassed to admit this because, again, I felt like I'm a strong, independent woman. Yet unconsciously, and this is thanks to the patriarchy, to conditioning, I had this story running that I would not be able to survive without a man. There wasn't even a year that passed between my divorce and when I started this new relationship. And when I was going through all this, what is live your yes? And I was realizing I need to work on myself first. I need to fill some holes inside. I can't do that in relationship. I'm learning how to not leave myself in relationship by leaving that relationship and focusing solely on myself. And it was the best choice that I could have made for myself. So it was being willing to be in the discomfort, feel the grief, get support, and be so committed to this new chapter, this new possibility for myself, and trust myself and my soul guidance that my survival did not depend on a man, that I would be able to thrive not from hyper independence, yet just recognizing I'm not dependent on anyone. That was my journey with that.
It's a bit different when we choose to share something with someone rather than feeling that we have to depend on them for that. So that choice is a big change in our feeling and our independence and in how we show up in relationships. When you have that quiet confidence that you can do it yourself, and then you choose to share your life with someone, it puts you on a very different footing in that relationship as well.
Completely. I mean, now my growing edge is recognizing that I could receive into my life, not from need or unconscious story, but I could attract into my life a partner who wants to contribute the resources that he has, just like I want to contribute the resources I have to contribute to his even greater life and living and future. That can come from a mutual conscious desire to contribute, not from the sense of like, I need you. So that's a big difference. And that requires a lot of that inner work to get to that space and place.
And you talk about the inner work. You've mentioned that a few times now. So therapy was one of the things that you mentioned that you took part in. What else was there that you found that was helpful on this journey for you and to moving forward and to orienting yourself on a new path and supporting yourself through all of that? What did you find that was helpful?
So many different things. And I love this question because it's so helpful. And I love your podcast too, because it can be so helpful to hear about the different modalities and techniques while also recognizing, like for me, and I know you believe this too, there's never like one right way. We're all so different. And one modality that might have worked really well for me for a while, then I get to a stage in my development where I need something else. Even I went to school to become a therapist. And during that therapeutic experience, and then during my divorce, I shifted therapists because the therapist that had gotten me into that marriage was now not the therapist to have to help me navigate divorce. So then going through this last decade of journey and growth and doing the work, it has been a combination of therapy and coaching and mindset coaching and embodiment practices and sexual, sensual, somatic work with coaches and therapists and consciousness training and workshops and classes and shadow work and dating and relationships. So, like, so many different kinds of coaching and perspectives. And yet, the common theme among all of it, when I talk about doing the work, is really, and this is what informs my work with women now, it's really this process of unlearning everything we've learned about what a woman can be, should be, can't be, needs to be, mustn't be, all those programs and conditioning from the patriarchy, the messages we received growing up of like children are meant to be seen, not heard, or, oh, stop asking questions, you're being too much. All those ways that we've stuffed, suppressed, rejected our full, authentic, weird, wacky selves to try to fit in to society so that we'll belong, so that we can be safe. That's hardwired in. And so the journey home to ourselves, the homecoming for me is unwinding from all those stories and then really developing this relationship with ourselves where we know ourselves. And of course, it's a lifetime journey, yet there's this exploration and discovery of ourselves, all those different parts and voices of ourselves, and owning our intuition, our wisdom, our dreams and desires, and getting the support we need to grow the confidence to be that woman in the world and to go for those dreams and desires in a world that often tells us, don't do that. You shouldn't do that. You should put your energy in this instead. Oh, who are you to do that? All those things. So it's this ongoing, like, am I crazy? I feel really wrong to be doing something that's so outside. Or there can be the like, how am I still struggling with these doubts? I'm a successful woman. I thought I worked through that. So it's all of that journey of unraveling. Glennon Doyle in her book Untamed talks about it so powerfully. This journey of we are rewilding ourselves and getting in touch with the wild, wise woman inside who is begging to be expressed and released from the cage of all this conditioning. So that's what I mean when I say doing the work, just that, rewilding our spirits, our soul, our bodies, our minds.
I love that. Rewilding. I've never heard that before in this context, and I love it. That's perfect. It is. We are coming back to our original, wild, wonderful, amazing, wise selves as women. And that is part of that journey. I simply love what you just said. Wow. And there can be a lot of fear when you first start setting your feet on that path and you start looking outside the box a little bit. There
Totally.
can be a lot of fear involved in that. So
Yeah.
for you now, looking back, you've been on this path for a while. You've structured your business around the living your yes. And how is it different for you now when you're looking back where there was maybe still a lot of fear, a lot of hesitation to open that path up? How does that feel for you now, having moved forward on that path?
I love this question, and I have like two paths of answers I want to share with you. One is the total confession that I still feel fear. I'm continuing to be on my, what I like to call creative edge, where, for example, at the time of this recording, not release of this episode, I am planning for my first ever summit type event early this summer. And that's new and it brings up all kinds of things. I have written a novel that's going to be published June 2025. And there's fear that comes up of like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a big thing. And so when we are moving beyond our, so yes, while what I've developed over the last decade plus is this courage, I am not a believer that it is about being fearless at all. I think that is a mighty expectation that can cause more pain and judgment and destruction for a woman rather than recognizing fear is okay. What fear invites us into is our courage. And rather than waiting to feel confident, recognize we grow our confidence through doing those things that scare us. So I have the tools and the perspectives and the ways of being with my fear now that it might invite me to pause, but it's ultimately not going to stop me. And when I look back on helped me grow that, one of the things that I'll share for women listening to this who might feel that fear stop them, because it can feel really overwhelming at times to become more of you in a world that you've trained to expect certain things from you. Like I talk a lot about breaking free from people pleasing with women. And I've created this whole series of videos on my TikToks that have been blowing up about like how to say no without pissing people off. And the truth is ultimately it's recognizing that people might still get pissed off. And that's not a sign that we're doing something wrong. And yet ways to work with the fear can be a couple different approaches. I'm a big fan of journaling as it's a way of us unpacking what's circling, what we might be ruminating on, head tripping or heart tripping about. It's a way to let it all out of us so we become more aware of what voices we're listening to inside. We can begin to see it on the blank page, well, now covered with our words, and then begin to, when we can, I also have the system of archetypes that I work with women, the archetypes of the wild feminine, and they have names and they each have this inner critic that has a name. And when we can name them, we can begin to tame them. So with journaling, when you begin to journal out your fears, that's one healthy way of seeing the fears and having compassion for yourself. And you could imagine there's a little girl inside, the little you that's like, please tell me you're going to be with me through this. Please tell me I'm not alone in my bedroom at night, afraid of the monsters under the bed. Please tell me you'll come with me and be in this journey. So when we get to write out the fears, we can see that, we can have compassion for ourselves. And then you also want to get in touch with what is it that you want to create on the other side of the fear? Write about it and tap into how are you going to feel when you've done that? And then let that become your guiding light through the fear and focus on, I am a courageous woman. I want to be courageous. I want to take this next step on my journey. Because as you take the next step and the next step, as you say no to someone instead of saying yes, as you prioritize something to move forward with your dream, you really take your vision of starting a podcast seriously, for example, or writing a book or that kind of thing. You let your desire to have that experience become more important to you than letting the fear stop you.
Those are beautiful words. Thank you for sharing that. And such great advice for women who might be looking to step on that path, looking where to start, and journaling is such a fantastic tool to put that in place. So thank you for that. And if our listeners are curious at this point, how they can work with you, what do you have on offer for individuals, women? Do you work with men also, or just women? How can people work with you?
I work with women, and I work with women one-on-one in groups. And by the time this episode, that women, you'll be listening to this, I'll have a different options on my site for free gifts. There will be a quiz about discover which inner critic is killing your confidence. So we didn't get into exploring that a lot right now, but with the fear, there can be a lot of that doubt and the inner critic at play. So helping you identify that, like I said, name it, tame it, that's on the site. There's also some free gifts about how to create a life you love. And I also have a free private Facebook group called Live Your Yes. And inside that Facebook group, community of women all dedicated to living their yes. There's also journaling prompts in there and other resources to support women on this path of rewilding and creating a life they love from the inside out. So those would be the best places to check. And all of that would be on my website, links to the private Facebook group and the gifts and the quiz.
Amazing. And Megan also has her own podcast called The Megan Walrod Show, and you can listen in from your favorite podcast provider. And we, of course, will be linking to all of Megan's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on how you can get in touch with her, how you can listen to her episodes. There's some really inspiring episodes there. So make sure you pop over there and have a listen. And I am looking forward to your magical creations that are upcoming for later in the year. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed our journey into living your yes as much as I have. It has been fantastic having you on the podcast today and chatting with you about this. And thank you so much for bringing this crazy energy that you have. I love it. It's so rewilding on the podcast too. Thank you for bringing that and for spending time with me today and recording this episode. Truly appreciate it, Megan.
Thank you so much for having me. I always so enjoy getting to share and have these conversations because I know what you are up to with your podcast. And I feel like together we contribute to these conversations and women getting the support and feeling that enlivened energy, a possibility for themselves in their own lives. So thank you for being a catalyst for that and for having me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope we get to do this again and talk about more of the beautiful things that you have planned, and definitely keep talking about how we can step on that path to living our yes. Such an important thing nowadays, especially as we're seeing so many negative things in the world. So this is our beacon to where we need to go. Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you so much, Megan, and take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.